Attack on Titan, 10 important characters who don't know how to fight. In Attack on Titan, it's those on the field who receive the most screen time. However, there are also many important characters behind the front lines. The Attack on Titan series is defined by its many thrilling moments and violent altercations. Shifters battle against ordinary people to determine the fate of Marley and Parody in a gradually escalating conflict. As the anime reaches its conclusion and the Jaegerists enact their plan, the need for diplomacy becomes especially scarce. Despite having a prominent role in the story, many key characters are completely incapable of fighting. By identifying them, we can better appreciate the profound ways they have impacted the story regardless of their lacking physical skills. 10. Carla Yeager gave Eren drive to fight the Titans. Carla Yeager was Eren's mother and Grisha's wife. Although only appearing briefly at the beginning of the series, her death had a staggering impact within and beyond Parody walls. In addition to giving Eren even more motivation to fight back against the pure Titans, it was also partially responsible for driving Grisha to attack the Rice family. Should Carla have actually had the skills to defend herself, the anime's story would have unfolded very differently even despite the destruction of Shiganshina and the famine that followed. 9. Despite training scouts, Keith Shades never actually fought. Keith Shades was responsible for training the cadet corps and preparing them for whatever branch of the military they chose. Despite surviving dozens of narrow encounters alongside Grisha Yeager, he has seldom actually fought anyone. On the contrary, he's only headbutt arrogant or aloof recruits whenever he deemed it appropriate. During the Jaegerist takeover, he was almost immediately overwhelmed and brutalized by his own cadets. Though he may have turned the tables during the counterattack on Floch's fortress. Shades' blaze of glory was only on account of handy nearby explosives and the element of surprise. 8. Kiyomi has no formal combat training. Intrigued by Parody-rich resources, Kiyomi visited the island in hopes of procuring an alliance between the Eldians and her people. She hoped to use her relationship with Mikasa in order to gain the favor of Historia Rice, the nation's current queen. Unfortunately for her, the Jaegerists took over the area before a formal bargain could be struck. In the end, she was powerless to resist Floch's brutality and needed to rely on others in order to make it out safely. In exchange for the hero's assistance, they were given an aircraft to catch up with the wall Titans rumbling. 7. Yelena was much better at manipulating than combat. Yelena was one of the Marleyan soldiers captured during a failed scouting mission to Parody. She gave herself up willingly with the understanding that the Jaeger brothers would eventually crush Marley and end the Eldian curse on the planet. Similarly to Kiyomi, Yelena was powerless to resist Floch during his military takeover and has no formal training with ODM gear. She is familiar with firearms, however, as proven when executing a subordinate for badmouthing a handful of Eldian captives. 6. Pixis rarely saw action as the commander of the Garrison Regiment. As the commander of the Garrison Regiment, much of Pixis' responsibilities were solely to the defense of Parody. Unlike Kenny Ackerman or Erwin Smith, he never engaged in battle himself. Instead, he directed it from the sidelines like a typical general. In addition to being limited by his age, much of Pixis' career has been relatively uneventful since the nation's walls were not breached until recently. As a consequence, he lacks the fighting prowess and acuity of his comrades in the Scout Regiment. 5. Frida Rice was killed by Grisha despite having a much stronger Titan. As a member of the royal family, Frida seldom fought due to her aristocratic background. Instead, she spent most of her youth with Historia before assuming her responsibilities to her bloodline. This oversight led to the slaughter of her entire family during Grisha Yeager's attack, with Rod Reiss as the only survivor. Frida lost for two reasons. Not only was she unfamiliar with harnessing the founding Titan's power, her basic combat skills were underdeveloped. Consequently, Grisha was able to secure the most deadly weapon in existence despite his own mediocre shifting ability and talent in a brawl. 4. Dalius Zachary understood politics, not warfare. Dalius Zachary presided over Parody 3 military branches and served as a judge in Eren Yeager's trial. After the coup to depose the corrupt monarchy, he also helped run the government alongside Historia Reiss. However, he had never personally visited a battlefield, used ODM gear, or even fired a gun. Due to his low combat awareness, he failed to realize an explosive planted in his office and was consequently killed in front of a large crowd. 3. Willy Tybur relied on Lara for protection. As the leader of the Tybur family, many suspected that Willy possessed the Warhammer Titan. The mystery suited him well, as it forced his rivals to keep on their toes and remain wary of what he could do. In truth, Lara was the true wielder of the Titan's power and Willy's sworn protector. He counted on her to protect him during his declaration of war against Parody. Without any skills of his own, Willy could not adapt to Eren's ambush and got killed at the beginning of Liberio's invasion. 2. Falco lacks Gabi's sharpshooting gifts. Despite being a warrior candidate, Falco failed to display an exceptional aptitude for combat. He preferred to take a diplomatic approach, as seen when protecting Gabi from an enraged Niccolo. Even after consuming Porco and becoming a Titan shifter, Falco only served a support role. His winged Titan allowed the heroes access to Eren's back when conventional technology failed them. Since Falco was not directly involved in the battle for Parody or against the ancient Titans, he was one of the series' few shifters to see less direct combat than Peak. 1. Armin sometimes fought, though he nearly always lost. Although graduating alongside Eren and Mikasa as a brilliant member of the Cadet Corps, Armin failed to match the combat prowess of his peers. He played a support role in virtually every battle and was usually worse for wear by their conclusions. For example, he was completely incinerated by Bertholdt, bludgeoned to the brink of unconsciousness in a fistfight with Eren, and almost failed to protect what remained of humanity from the rumbling as the colossal Titan. Should Mikasa not have decapitated Eren when she did, Armin's defeat would have been inevitable.